Hey everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. Now, I'm sure there are going to be spoilerific questions that are going to be in the comment section below, whether they be about Nier or the MSQ or Whirlit or whatever. So, because we just had the patch come out, I'm going to either avoid doing those or I'm going to put them at the very end, even after the lightning round. So, that's undecided at this point, like while I'm recording right now, which of the two I'm going to do, but we might just consider an all-out ban on them so that way people don't ask them for next week either, because I want people to be able to enjoy it without having to worry about clicking around questions or a specific section of the video not being able to watch it. So besides some of the aspects, I probably need more time to unpack anyway, but general thoughts, if I can give like spoiler-free thoughts on anything, A, I've already done it on State of the Realm, or B, I will, and I'll just avoid any specific details. Just wanted to preface this video with that. But with that, let's get into the questions, because I'm sure I have quite a few this week. Thank you to our sponsors over on Patreon for supporting as they have, for whatever reason they might be there. I do appreciate them being there. And thank you to our patrons of Darkness, Khuja, on Jenova, and Kurenai Oni, who have gone above and beyond. Thank you to them. Very much appreciated, as always. Now, this video does actually have an additional sponsor. Some of you may have noticed pretty much all of my 5.5 videos have been sponsored by the city of Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. Most of you know that's not really news to my channel, but it's very unusual. I've never had so many back-to-back videos that are sponsored by a specific game or company or anything like that. It's normally like a video here or there that it's sprinkled in, but they sponsored all of my live streams for the week on Twitch. They sponsored all of my YouTube videos for the 5.5 week here on YouTube. And that includes this video as well. So here's another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia ad. If you haven't seen one of my previous videos, go check it out. Hey all, after promising you an ad and doing a really awkward jump cut, this video is sponsored by Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. It's a free-to-play mobile game, and my personal favorite one at that. A turn-based marriage of Final Fantasy X and the Dissidia franchise that features over 140 free characters, an epic story with no pesky stamina systems to get in the way, and constant additions to both single-player and multiplayer content. It's currently in the midst of its spring campaign with huge login bonuses and a special beginner weapon banner that new players can use to really get a massive head start. This lasts until the 20th of April, and if that wasn't enough, Y'shtola's burst weapon, her most powerful weapon, is available until May 7th. So if you enjoy my content and you're looking to try out what is my favorite mobile game, check out the download link in the description. Support the channel and support the sponsor at the same time. Trust me, you've got a heck of a time ahead of you with this one. Now, with that, let's get to the video. Wow, that was a fantastic ad. All seriousness though, if you go through my channel, you'll see I've done Defu content and I still do play it on occasion. It's tough for me to find time around like patch times like this, but generally in between patches, I'll find myself lingering on and clearing through any of the stuff I missed or catching up on the story or stuff like that. So hopefully if you enjoyed the ad, you can click in the link below and you can check it out. Supports the channel, supports the sponsors. So thank you to Square Enix and Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia for supporting this video as well. Now with that, let's get to some questions. All right, this first one seems like a short one. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, Haps. Hello. Since an Octopath Traveler sequel was confirmed a while back, even if we won't see it soon thanks to Triangle, what are some things you want to see improved on the most in the sequel? So I'm of the opinion that Triangle is actually an Octopath sequel without calling it Octopath 2. I'm also just kind of hoping Champions of the Continent comes to the West, in all honesty, whether it be in the form of a mobile game or if they take the stories and condense them into a single player game, whatever the method may be. I really want to play Champions without having to, not understand or like Google or YouTube the various texts so I can understand what's happening. I think the only thing really is intertwining the characters a little bit more. That's the only downside I really saw. I like the way the story's told, and I like that everyone kind of has their own way of going about playing Octopath, and I think those elements kind of make it what it is. And it's consequentially what led to the characters having dialogue between each other, but very limited, very limited capacity that's actually happening. No voice scenes, no scenes where they kind of build synergy. It's all in those additional dialogues that you get in between missions or when you visit certain locations. So that's really the only thing I'd want to see improved. The gameplay, the music, the stories themselves, the tone, it's wonderful across the board, and that would be the only complaint that I think even makes any sense when it comes to Octopath, is to intertwine the characters a little bit more. Second question, hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey Hap, spoilers for Your Hot Dark Apocalypse, maybe, I guess. Now, I did actually read this question in advance when I saw the actual thing here, so I'm not going to scroll down through the rest of this question. It's basically just portraying their opinions on what actually happened in the Nier raid and what it's actually done and how it turned out. I'm not going to get into that this week, kind of for the same reasons I mentioned at the start. But there is the question, what did you think of the conclusion of the Nier Raid story? I actually am refraining from commenting on it until I have the remaining weekly quests. We have 2 more weeks worth of weekly quests to do, and I'm keeping to my word. I'm literally not judging it at all until I have all of that information, because we all, like everyone's been saying the whole time, myself included, Yoko Taro is a very back-heavy writer, where it's basically, I want you to have no idea what's going on, and then it all makes sense kind of deal. And I'm going to include the 2 weekly quests in that. So I'm not judging it at all from a story perspective. I will say it is my least favorite of the 3 24-mans. I think Puppet's Bunker, in terms of gameplay, actually is my favorite amongst the 3. Mostly because the first and last boss I really don't like. And the second and third boss, I think, are the best second and third boss across all 3. You'd think that'd make up for it, but it really doesn't. The first boss initially entering the instance and just, it's like, what is this? And some of the trash also. Like, trash is never that exciting, but I think it's kind of just tedious in this case. It's not even like, oh, okay, we'll just kill through the trash. No, I just don't like it at all. But the second and third boss get points. I think they're the best designed 24-man bosses of the expansion, and I hope to see them continue along that level of quality in the future. But the final boss and the first boss, definitely a no for me. All right, hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, Haps, how you doing? Got a question for you. Tried to get it into this video, but I guess I asked too late. Yeah, I remember after I rendered the video, going back and seeing a question or 2 that was added after I had recorded. So you're probably one of them, but I didn't actually read them. I just saw that there were new comments. So let me actually read through this one. So I'm trying to do some streaming. I did a video with a couple friends running Copied Factory and Puppet's Bunker. Everything was fine, and I exported to YouTube. After it had finished processing, it was hit with a copyright claim for the songs from Nier. I'm not making any money off these videos at the moment anyway, so I'm just getting started. My question is, did something like this happen to you? Yes! That's why there's no first clear of the Nier raids on my channel for the most recent tier, because it got copyright striked. If you actually go and watch my 24-man guide, I start with a warning, because normally my 24-man guides, I take music from the instance, and I put it in the background whenever applicable. Because I got that copyright claim on the actual just playing the game, I left that out. I just said, you know what, generic background music. I don't have a choice. So, yeah. And that's something that you always kind of face as a content creator. There's lines you have to toe between making sure you can get a copyright claim and then kind of fix it versus just outright getting a strike. And something like this, where it's in a video game, most of the time just results in a claim and not a full-on DMCA or a strike. But you do always have to keep that in mind when it comes to music, especially music that's licensed from something else. I know people might be thinking, oh, Square Enix owns the music because it's Nier and they also publish Nier. That's not at all how it works. They are 100% licensing those themes from the actual composer for the Nier games. So even if they have the game that has it, they do not have commercial rights to those songs the same as the composer actually does. It's the same with Nobuo Uematsu. He might have been part of Square Enix. He might have done a lot of tracks for them at various times, but his tracks can all get you DMCA'd or copyright claimed in Final Fantasy XIV. Answers, Dragon Song, and the Stormblood theme, I think, are all him. And those can all trigger it. So you have to be careful with things like that. Understanding the composer and how they operate, or how their record companies operate on YouTube and Twitch, is a huge part of understanding when you can just throw it on in the background, or when it's okay to just post the gameplay, or if it's something that you need to consider, like GTA radios and things like that. So I ran into the same issue, and consider that a little lesson off the top of the head about doing stuff like that in the future. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hello, Happy. Hope you're doing well. Today was an excellent day. Thank you. Hope the same for you. The question is, you planning on doing any more strategy breakdowns for raid tiers in the future like you did for E9 through 11? I actually recorded E12 and uploaded it, but never made it public because the other videos didn't do super well. I really like doing those, especially when I don't really feel like getting around to guides. E9S really reminds me of why I don't really like making Savage guides much anymore. It's not because I don't want to post the video, because I really do want to make guides for those fights, but it's because of the response. I mean, when you get "Go kill yourself," or I wish you had died before you ever started playing Final Fantasy XIV" as messages in game, where I could just send GMs and be like, yo, listen, I've got a chat log literally right here with this. Like, you know, it's just, you know, if they're that fearless, that's all that really needs to be said. I get that in comment sections and Twitter DMs, in game again. You know, it's kind of hard to want to do that. I didn't even make the Happy Bramble Shrat. I was getting fucking threats about it in-game. It's crazy to see how people can react and how dense these people's brains must be. But it is what it is. So these strategy breakdown videos are a lot more niche, but generally avoid that sort of issue because everything's broken down how we got to that decision-making process, how we analyzed it during prog so people can understand how to analyze it themselves during prog. That I find fun. Just a matter of if I'm happy with the video and how those videos are actually doing at any given time. So from time to time, yes, I do think we will be doing those, but I cannot guarantee that every single fight, or especially every single Savage, will necessarily have a video that's exactly like that. Oh my god. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, aka aka how you doing? You doing alright? I'm doing alright. Lollyho, quick one for you. Which one do you think is the better OST, 11 or 14? Listen to 11 soundtracks all the time, and maybe because of the slower pace of the game in general, I felt it had more of an impact, especially in regards to zones of battle themes. 14 has some great music, but 11 has more memorable. So I'm going to say a couple things. One, I don't think it's worth comparing, because I don't think you can compare the two. They come from two completely different composers and two completely different generations of games. Composers, while they are great on their own, in fact, Final Fantasy XI's composer actually is a huge EDM fan, and in their own time actually likes to make EDM, I almost said EDM music. They like to make electronic dance music, and so they have an additional passion for that. You can see that they're kind of roped in when it comes to Final Fantasy XI. They have to make sure that themes are consistent with the world, that they're fitting for specific scenes. And Final Fantasy XIV does very much the same way. I know people like to look at 14 and think of themes like, you know, Garuda or Thornton or Seed of Sacrifice and the Shadowbringers theme and things like that. But you really need to stop and listen to the various things like Thanalan at night or Limsolo Minsa during the day and really understand how those speak to the game's soundtrack more than the tracks that are things that sound like, you know, game songs like the Primals and whatnot. And you really start to see more of a comparison between the two. And even then, you still have to take into account, even things like the color palettes and the graphics, they play into how those songs generally portray the game. But if you're nostalgic about a game that you played 20 years ago, almost, it's 19 years old next month, that's always going to factor into how you feel about the music. You were younger, you were more impressionable. Even if you were still old at the time, that generation of gaming is impressionable to somebody when it's still kind of like that new, fresh thing. It's your first time experiencing something along those lines. That's always going to play into biases when it comes to everything. Gameplay, music, graphics, it's always going to play a factor. And I think it's worth mentioning that because I don't think it's worth comparing the two soundtracks. I'll never have to choose between one or the other. I can own both. I can listen to both. I can listen to 14 songs while playing 11, 11 songs while playing 14. Heck, sometimes I listen to other Final Fantasy songs while I'm playing 14 or 11 over the past however long anyway. So for me, it's an unanswerable question, because I don't think one's better than the other. I think we should just enjoy both of them. Hashtag Feliz Senor Lunes. I couldn't get through that Mr. Happy Monday right there. That was real tough for me. Hi, hello, hi, hey. Quick question, is there a Primals version of O4S or is Titan already as metal as it can be? So, O4S actually has the Primals Titan theme in it. The final phase is the Primals version of Titan's theme. It's the same theme that's used in Ultima Weapon Ultimate during Titan's phase, and yeah, that is the Primals theme. This is another remix, and you know what? We now have a Primal... Let's think about this way. We have Leviathan's theme. We have Leviathan's Primals theme. We have Leviathan's remix, Blinding Indigo, from Eden. And now we have a Primals version of the remix of Leviathan's original theme. So I'll never say they won't do a Primals version of O4S, because they've already proven they will. But it's not something that I'm really expecting at this point. This one didn't have a hashtag, but I did see that it had the word question as I was scrolling through, so I figured it was probably just one missing the hashtag. Hey, Mr. Happy. Hi. Question for you I've been meaning to ask, and I keep forgetting to do so. A while ago, you mentioned that Gunbreaker was made from Squall's and Cypher's Knight class and personal kits from 8. That is true. Is there a character skill set from the Final Fantasy franchise you'd like to see made into a job? Zidane sticks out of mind, for example. So they did this for me already. Edgar is Machinist now from Final Fantasy VI. Now, I think they could still explore that a little bit more. There's a few tools that they haven't used from that. But that idea is something I really hope they embrace more going forward. It expands the amount of possible jobs they could make by a considerable amount without having to copy a job that already exists. By modeling them after characters, it just opens up so much. I mean, I've often said that I would personally prefer, as someone who doesn't play the job, but I think this would be a really big thing. So ignore this opinion. This opinion matters much less than I'm going to make it seem, because it's mine, so no one cares. But if Summoner played like Yuna from Dissidia, that for me would be a more iconic way of doing Summoner in a more active standpoint than, like, say, Final Fantasy XI Summoner. So that for me would be a big thing. If all of their attacks invoked primals would appear for specific attacks. Like, let's say you had a conal AoE that's right in front of you, and then it's Ifrit popping up and doing a slash, for example, as opposed to you have Ifrit Eggy and he has like a little AoE. For me, that would be a little bit more. It would also fix the fact that, I'm not going to lie, pets in 14 suck. They should really fix them in terms of just the future of the game. But if I could get away from them by making all the primals part of their skills instead of making them a separate entity altogether, I'd take it. So for me, things like that really open up possibilities. And so I do hope that they go down this route like you're talking about here sometime in the future. Next one, hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, apps, hope all is well and you are in good health. I am just looking for a fucking vaccine appointment, man. The 15th opened up and everyone's like, all right, they're all gone. It's like, all right, I'll just have to look every day at this point. I have 3 questions this week. Well, let's see how long they are and see if I can actually get to all 3 of them. Let's see. First one is a quick one. I was just wondering if you planned on doing any guides for Delubrum. So I decided not to. I started working on it. I recorded the audio. I wrote the script. I had a lot of it planned out. 70 minutes to do the whole thing. The best I thought of doing is breaking it down boss to boss, but then that felt like milking it. And then I realized it just, for me, doesn't come off as the ideal way to learn Delubrum. I feel like text while watching somebody do the fight without the fight being explained to you in the video, I think that's the ideal way to learn Delubrum. And I know you can never tell someone there's an ideal way to learn something, but it really feels that way to me. And that really makes me not want to release a 70-minute long video. Kind of not down for that, not gonna lie. I got enough memes as it is. So probably not. I probably just recommend stuff to resources that are available elsewhere as opposed to making this super, super long video. I was having a discussion with some friends, this is number 2, in regards to Lauren, we were stumped. We see the true form of Hades Elidibus. We were wondering if these forms are what they would have looked like if you saw them walking around ancient Amarot, if they were like primal forms akin to Shiva. From what I understand, they're primal forms more akin to Shiva. The Amarotians, as we see them, the ancients as we see them, are more close to their true form. We kind of see this specifically with Elidibus back in 5.3. And by the way, in case you're wondering, this is almost like 9 months old, this stuff, so that's why I'm freely talking about it, not throwing it in the spoiler section, so apologies for that if you didn't already know about this stuff. I consider it more their creation magics being used on themselves. I don't know if there's actually a solid answer for that anywhere in-game, and I feel like I've inquired about that with Ethis, and I don't think he had a solid answer for it either. So I always interpreted it as them using their own creation magics on themselves. And we see that especially with Elidibus becoming the Warrior of Light, who is almost certainly modeled after Azim and not, or Azem, I suppose, and not his actual form. And 3, there was some discussion this week about elitism in 14. Do you think there's a large enough problem for the way it's being made out? Just a vocal minority making a fuss. Here's the problem. Casuals complain about elitism, and elitists complain about casuals. Now, let me rephrase that. There is such a thing, and people overlook this, as casual toxicity. That's what I was looking for. Where players who enjoy the game at a more base level, they just play the game. There's like this active distaste and hate and harassment towards people who take it more seriously. The most direct way, everyone's heard this before, is calling someone a tryhard. That's like the most base level, like almost too easy. It doesn't really mean anything that much anymore. But build upon that, and you end up with this insane amount of casual toxicity. Great example. I have the Healer Happy series on YouTube. I haven't done anything with it in a while, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One was I was bored doing it. It just felt like I was just going through motions, and I wasn't really getting anywhere in it, other than just increasing my level and doing the next dungeon, which I don't need a whole new character to do that. It lost its point. But during that adventure, there are recordings. I think there are some that I actually do post to YouTube, and there are some that are just not there, where people are actively upset with me for DPSing on a healer. They're alive. They don't come close to dying. I give them a regen. I give them something, and they're fine. They're not, and whatever. And they're just mad at me for DPSing. And that's another solid definition of casual toxicity. So here's the thing. There's not a problem with elitism. There's not a problem with casual players. It's just toxicity. That's the only common thing. There are people who are hyper elites, world first tier players who don't harass people. And then there's like that. And honestly, elitism it's rarely like people who are at the very top of their game who are elitist because they're focused on playing well. It's people who are like in the middle who think they're hot shit 99% of the time who are being toxic. It's not the people at the top. And that's kind of where there's like this really weird, it's like there's this gap where it's like people who are really, really good and just focus on themselves, people who enjoy the game and just play it at their own pace. And you got this like weird middle ground where you've got like the people who like play the game casually, but they have this like set way where if you don't play exactly like they want you to, then they act like an asshole. And then you've got that like layer of people who are like, they raid and they do like most of the content in the game, but they're not like god tier players, but they're just dickheads to everyone below them. And it's just really, really strange to see that dichotomy that is actually across the middle and not at the top or the bottom. So for me, it's not casual or elitist. It's just toxic ass people falling in all sorts of categories and trying to blame other people because they're too, I'll use the word for the second time this video, dense to understand that they're exactly what they're complaining about, just on a different side of the coin, really. So it is a minority making a fuss, but it's also a minority making a fuss the other way around. It's people who don't have any sort of maturity at all. It's okay to be like I'm aloof, I'm stupid, I say dumb shit, but I try not to do what these people do because they're on a whole nother level. All right, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello. 3. Mr. Happy, hello. Hey. All right. Long-time watcher, first-time asker. What do you think of the possibility of adding another type of job advancement instead of new jobs altogether? No. I'm not even answering for me. I'm answering from them. They don't even like class to job advancement. If they could, they'd get rid of classes altogether. They've been saying they want to do it, but that it's lore-wise, it's a bit of a problem. Honestly, from a technology standpoint, the game is so ingrained with those things that it's difficult from that standpoint. And thus, they probably won't, but they're never doing another job advancement, ever. They toyed with the idea in like the early days, and then as soon as they realized the hole they had dug themselves, they hate the idea now. So I doubt that's changed. It's not like we've asked them as of late, but no. In fact, the extra 10 levels you get every expansion, that is your job advancement as far as they're concerned. All right, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, how's it going? Hey, it's going all right. I hope it's going well for you too. Sorry about calling you out on the Nier hate before. I mean, you're not the only one, to be fair, but you know, it's thanks for the sorry, I guess. But I was curious if you would consider having a guest on State of the Realms like Clemps, a YouTuber has made a video series on the Nier games and plays 14. Have some stuff to say about the raid series. So here's the thing. I never want to commit a whole show of State of the Realm to Nier, because that show is going to be about Nier. It's not going to be about Final Fantasy 14. Be better off if it was something like, for example, talk about games, which we very, very rarely do, and we're filling in weeks between State of the Realm, when we don't have anything to talk about. So that's the big thing for me that would stop me from ever doing something like this. But I think a lot of people miss the point of when I don't like the Nier raids, when I don't find them enjoyable. And I tell them, bring it up for the millionth time. People ask you, listen, it's my fucking channel. He asked me a question about it. I got to answer it, okay? I don't dislike Nier, like its story or anything. I don't like Automata's gameplay, but the story and Drakengard, like I've played Drakengard. I've dealt with giant man-eating babies before. Like I'm informed in that regard. That doesn't make me like it in 14 more. I understand the final boss of Nier in the raid series, but it's about it not fitting in Final Fantasy 14. That's it. That's all it's ever been about, is me just not liking them forcing it into 14 and it not doing anything to build on the world of 14. Now, I said I'm waiting 2 weeks to judge it. And that's still true. And I have some theories of ways that it does actually tie into Final Fantasy 14 a little more directly. And maybe that's just me trying to force the issue, but I'll be more prepared to talk about this in 2 weeks. And I will do a video about it as well once we have all the weekly quests done. So please be patient. I'll have an answer soon. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Hello. Hi. I have 2 quick questions and a quick hello. I like it. 1, which jobs do you feel you'd be confident to speak about high-level content optimization? I know you played a lot of Dancer, but you seem to have a lot of knowledge in Monk and Warrior. Warrior, definitely not. I think Warrior, you can portray knowing a lot about Warrior, without knowing how to actually maximize on it. I think it's a job that getting like blue or like low purple parses is something you can do relatively consistently without like a super high level of min-max knowledge. But those real warrior experts definitely get that like extra 20 to 25% to get up to the orange parses. They get it. They're the real experts. Monk and Dancer are probably the two. Machinist, almost with Machinist, like I can get to a lot of it, but a lot of the times I play it, I'm not as focused because it's not my main job. So the practice level isn't there, the muscle memory isn't there. So the Machinist is like almost there, but it really is Dancer and Monk. I'd say those are the two that I'm most confident talking about min-maxing. I can spot ways to maximize on those jobs in ways that I don't see on other jobs. So definitely those two, Dancer and Monk. Two in the future of, I guess I'll call it adventuring foray content. Which aspects of those contents would you like to see included? Oh, duels. Duels. 100% duels. Give me more duels. Give me more sieges. I really like specifically Bozja's fate system. The skirmishes, the critical engagements, the duels, the siege of Castrum, soon to be of Dalriada. I think those are really where it's strongest. And I've had to make some quality of life adjustments to it over time. And I really think Bozja in general is all the only good things about Eureka without the longevity of Eureka, minus the fact that you can use it for leveling, which essentially replaced Deep Dungeon for 71 to 80. And that honestly, that even in itself is a quality of life, not needing to feel... Man, it's so weird because there are reasons to prefer Eureka over Bozja when people do talk about it. Which, by the way, I remember, doesn't Merlib say Bozja in-game? She does, I think. Okay, either way. Regardless, moving on. But man, it just feels like every bit of feedback from Eureka was heard for Bozja. And that really, really factors in ways that not every player can appreciate. Like it being a leveling zone, being able to basically play with anyone at any time. Even if you can't go to parts of the map, you can still be in the party and your friends can still come down and assist you whenever any of the lower tier skirmishes actually come around. And you don't really feel that inhibited by it. You're not weaker than them. You're not holding them back necessarily, even if you can't get up to the map. Not to mention, it doesn't take very long to unlock the whole map. It's got a pretty good spread of its teleport locations. It's very objective oriented. You can focus on things that like clusters or getting new actions. Or you could focus on running around and killing the notorious monsters, farming elementals. A lot of the stuff that was still there in Eureka. But it's way more focused. I think the action system is far superior to Eureka's. It's not even fucking close. I think really one of the only things they didn't learn was how to incentivize Delubrum Savage. Like, it's weird how simple the incentivization of Eureka is, because Baldesion has rewards that can be sold. Delubrum has Save the Princess, and that's really it. Like, you can sell some of the actions that you get from Normal and Savage that are used in Delubrum, but they really messed up with making some of that stuff not sellable, in my opinion. Cerberus should be achievement only, but I was really surprised they didn't try to make any of the Savage haste gear sellable in there. Or they make like a set that's dropped separately from those, like the Osode or the Vermilion's Cloak. So really, you can kind of pick apart from my statements what things I think they got right in Eureka and things I think they could do better in Bozja. I think bunny chests in Eureka were something that I was definitely missing in Bozja for just wanting to sit there and chill. I still go back to Eureka to do bunny chests to this day. So things like that, a few more micro objectives like Eureka has, while still having more generally objective gameplay, objective focus gameplay in Bozja. Combine those two things, and I think you've got the perfect marriage. All right, so the last video is super long, and there's still a ton of questions left in this week, so I'm going to try to lightning round whatever I can find here. There's so many questions left. There's somebody asking about, it's been a while since we've seen duty actions used in raids and trials. Have they given up on them? No, people just really didn't like them, so they use them very, very sparingly. And I think that's wise, because I don't really like them all that much, if I can be completely honest with you. Is it possible they can upgrade graphical models the same way in this engine, specifically referring to the updated UI, the HD UI? I think there's still room with this engine to upgrade the graphics, but they're going to have to go up to DX12 to get the next upgrade. I think if you want something like Black Desert graphics, I don't think they'll ever go that route for optimization's sake, but that they would probably have to redo the engine if they wanted to move to a really high graphic fidelity like some other games that we see nowadays. There was a light spoilers question here that I don't really have an answer to in regards to 5.5 It was asking if a certain scene was a red herring, and I think the answer is no. I think the answer is that scene does exactly what y'all know what scene I'm talking about if you've seen it without saying the very final scene. There's also a question here that asked how I felt about that scene being thrown there, and I was like, dude, absolutely blue balls. Let me see if I can find that question. I think I had to scroll down a little bit to find it. Yeah, that scene was absolute blue balls. That's what I thought about it, because that's the general synopsis of the question that gets asked a little bit later. There's one about Puppet Master and Beastmaster, but we noticed there's no new limited jobs that were announced for Endwalker. Do I think they've abandoned the system outside of Blue? You know, I actually do think they don't want to do limited jobs anymore. I think even when they could bump the amount of people that participated in it, that it essentially, I feel like it probably boiled down to just too much work to do for something that isn't a full job. A piece of feedback that was pretty regular from people who were criticizing the job overall. I like playing Blue Mage. I like doing the raids on Blue Mage. I think the new abilities make some of the solo challenges way, way more fun. We've seen some crazy stuff. But I think they're done with limited jobs, in all honesty. I don't think they're going to do another one, ever. I think they'll just stick to working on main jobs. And maybe we'll see Beastmaster, Puppet Master as full jobs. And who knows? Maybe we'll even see Blue Mage as a full job, envisioned in the way where it's not about learning open world skills. Maybe we will see it at some point. That's genuinely how I feel at this point. And yeah, they also mentioned Bozja being World War I themed. You're right. I always say that wrong. So forgive me for that one right there. We had a first time asker go down to one new job per expansion. Yeah, I think this is the last expansion of one new job, but if they don't do any more limited jobs, they might actually keep sticking to it. Remember, new jobs is not necessarily as much about job or game balance as much as it's about how many resources it takes to create gear for them, to make sure that their animations work, and to balance them individually later on. Not how they balance against each other and like the imbalance of the game, but specifically making that job gratifying enough to play without it overshadowing other jobs. That's kind of like a big thing that they have to balance within the job itself without even thinking too much about the other jobs, where exactly they expect performance to be. And hitting that mark is the most important thing. But I think just because of that sheer number of resources to kit out these jobs, that may alone lead to them going down to one job. But then at the same time, man, PR and marketing, new jobs are big for selling new expansions. So that might keep them doing two. But I feel like it's inevitable eventually they'll only do one or none, as you've also suggested here. We had another first-time asker. Do you think they'll use the 4 Archfiends from Final Fantasy IV and Endwalker? I hope. I really, really hope. I've been asking for them for ages. Now's the time. That's it. Now's the time. Let's see. Somebody gave me cheesecake as a bonus. Let's see. Are there things you miss about making content when you weren't as popular? No, I actually really like the way I'm at right now. When I was first starting out, it gave me too much of an ego, really, because I had never had that kind of public attention before, and I didn't really know how to handle it. So what it led to was me feeling like I had to be a master of everything, even though I totally wasn't. And that led to missing things, information that wasn't 100% accurate, trying to make my word the law. Not even the law, but trying to enforce it in such a way where if you don't agree with me, it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And it was unhealthy. So no, I don't miss like the 100,000, 200,000 view Twintania guides and shit like that. I much prefer the breadth of content creators we have now and feeling like there's room to breathe than feeling this immense pressure to just have an answer for everything, to be the expert on everything when I'm not. That's the bottom line. It's the truth. It's too much of an ego boost. It made me a madman. It made me a person I didn't like being, and I just would never want to go back to that. So no, I don't miss anything really from back in those days. So yeah, no, it feels more personal now than it did back then. Here's the thing. You say I'm a larger creator. I've just been around for longer. I don't feel any larger or any small. I feel like me. And that's the most important thing to have nowadays. Old skills like Butcher's Block returning in the form of Glam over Storm's Path. Yeah, I like the idea of glammed skills. But I'd actually just rather them not. Because then it's not like I don't like Storm's Eye's animation. It's just, I want all of the best looking abilities in the game all the time. Glam or otherwise, but I just want them there. I want them to come back. I want them to come back permanently and not be an option. Just part of the kit. There's someone asking about ocean fishing and getting timing right, like getting cast timings right. I unfortunately have the same issue they have, where sometimes my counting is off by a second or two. So for me, unfortunately, I don't have any advice, because I struggle with the same thing, where I'm just trying to count to, oh, this was 9 seconds, and then I find out it was actually 8, and I pull the wrong fish, and I hate myself. What I've started doing is, regardless of where I land on the second, I just start counting to 1 on the next second. So like if it just, like, the clock went to like 4, let's say it's at 4 minutes 31 seconds, and I cast my line, and it immediately, before I've even like started counting, it goes down. I just say 1, and then 2, 3, and that doesn't fail me most of the time. But I say most of the time. It's not perfect. So they had another spoiler. Oh, this was the final scene question where I said we got blue balled. Yeah. Somebody answered a question for me here about haste gear in Bozja. Yeah, the haste is pretty much always superior in Bozja. One of the big things is the haste gear doesn't really hurt reopeners or burst windows all that much in Bozja, because you actually, when you're playing optimally in Bozja content, your burst windows are every 2 minutes, no matter what. So jobs with 90 seconds or 60 seconds or 180s, the 180s are really funky, but you're still generally bursting every 2 minutes. And it's just what works, what fits there, fits there. You're always going to be thinking about that, especially in like a place like Deliberum Savage. So the haste doesn't throw it off as much as it might seem. Or at least that's how I felt about it. There was one here. What's it called? I had this epiphany: farming Ruby don't feel like extremes. They feel like regular trials, but louder. I find that incorrect. I find that assessment incorrect. Because you said you've been playing for ages. Yeah. When you do something for a really long time, everything that you did back then, you're going to remember how good of a play. I say this about things like Thornton and Titan and like all of Realm Reborn and Heavensward stuff. People think they were better than they were back then. They think they're like the same skill level now as they were back then. We were all worse back in those days, in the 1.0 days and the 2.0 days, 3.0. It doesn't matter. You were worse. That content, you hadn't seen it before. You hadn't done it before. You hadn't done anything like it before. You were getting to do it for the first time. You've now had anywhere from 7 to 10 years to understand how the game, or in the case of adding 1.0 in their games, actually worked. That is a huge factor in things feeling like they're easier now. Now, I'm not going to say they're the same now. Obviously, we have things like being able to res after you fall off of an arena, which immediately throws everything Sephiroth before that into a totally different category if you could actually fall off. But the way the game is built is very different now. There's a lot more quality of life. There's a lot more distinguishing between different types of AoEs, different types of attacks. There's a lot of things like that help the player understand the information that's in front of them, on top of just raw experience. So genuinely tell me this. Go and do Shiva normal, and then go do Emerald extreme, and tell me they feel like they're the same thing. Because they don't. Trust me. I've had to work very, very hard at trying to make sure that I can look at these things without seeing through my I'm a super good gamer glasses. And trust me, it's a very, very different world than a lot of players who've been playing a long time portray it to be. I just think that it's become more accessible and has a lot more quality of life, so you can understand the mechanics a lot better. We didn't even have fucking split damage markers in a Realm Reborn. Think about that. If something was split damage, you know how you found out? Why did that kill that guy? Oh, maybe will you just stand with him? Dude, turn 11 in Coil. Sorry, turn 12 in Coil. You know the brands that you can pass back and forth, and you're supposed to like manage them so like they blow up on different people? One of those is a split damage AoE that we didn't know about till years after it came out, because we always were like, why does that one brand do a little? It does like 2,000 more damage than the rest of them. That's weird. Why does it do that? Because it was a split damage AoE. We had no idea. It was funny. It was funny. Let's see. We had another person who was asking how you mentioned Butcher's Block, the impact of Butcher's Block. Yeah. See, they just want to bring the Butcher's Block animation back. And I agree. Bring back the chunky animations. It's weird because they started talking about Paladin. Rage of Halone. Oh, you want to bring it back so like maybe Storm's Eye transforms into Butcher's Block? Dude, I don't care how they bring back Butcher's Block's animation. Bring that back. Bring Wide Volley back. Bring Granado Shot back. Bring... I don't know. Scourge back? I don't know. Bring everything back. Not... Don't actually bring it back. I don't want all those skills, but like I want it back. I want it back to some degree. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, there's an argument about Astro stuff, 57-minute video. Okay, and then I think there were a few questions I skipped past earlier as well to try and fit everything in. Somebody said the 23rd is something else for me. Mediator confirmed. No, that's my 7-year Twitch partnerversary. I have officially been partnered for 7 years. Oh, 23rd is when I got my acceptance email. I actually got my sub button on the 30th, but I'll consider the acceptance email. That's been my anniversary of the past few years. I'm going to keep it being that way for my partnerversary over there. Let's see what else. A bunch of people commenting Chloromane and Rift. Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, man, Chloromancer was my jam in Rift. The split in the MSQ. There was the Yorha spoilers, the one that I answered. I could have sworn there were more. Maybe I'm just misremembering how many there were. How many I had to skip past. Did I hear Aloha's in here? There was one. What do you think can be done to make PvP more fun? Dude, I don't even know. Honestly, I think they need smaller. I think they have the right idea of going for more smaller to mid-sized games instead of all these 48, 72 minutes. It's such a cluster. It's like, it just feels like why am I even here? Like, that's why I wasn't ever a huge fan of like Alterac Valley or Wintergrasp or anything along those lines, because just you feel like such a useless cog in the wheel because they're going for scale over going for actually asking anything of their PvP players. And yes, there is macro objective play that people are fucking awful at in pugs, but for me, having the basics would have probably been better before experimenting with these new modes like they have. Things like Capture the Flag, for example, which we still don't fucking have. So, things like that. I think they're making some of the right moves, but incentivizing people to do it is still their biggest problem. And we'll see if they can answer that. And do you think adding back some, if not all, the job skills? No. No, 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 no. Hell no. No. Too many buttons in PvP to have all the job skills plus the PvP skills again. Not to mention that PvP also has the job combo buttons, which kind of fucks with everything. Plus they have PvP versions of the job skills, which then makes it even more confusing when you have PvE, PvP mixed hotbars. No. Okay. Let's see. What do you think you're going to play in Endwalker? No idea. We don't even know what the last job is. We don't know what the melee is precisely yet. We've only got our predictions to go on at that. And we don't know how the jobs are going to change. Anything that's going to be reworked. Anything that's going to be added. I can't make that decision until I have that information. I could have swore there was at least one more here. Another job advancement. That was a big old nope. I remember that one. There was someone with a big wish list. And I deliberately go past those kind of because it's like, if it's not a question, then I kind of just want to, go to a question so I can get to all the questions. So for me, that was a reason why I went past that one. Somebody asked me about getting past social anxiety. I'm not a good person to ask about that because I still have major social anxiety. I barely talk to anyone in my FC or on Discord because I feel, or even, dude, there are people who I've known for years on Twitter and like Facebook and Discord and shit. I'm one of those people where if you don't talk to me, I probably won't talk to you. Only because I'm like, oh, I don't want to waste their time. I'm one of those. Yeah, it's terrible because it makes you look like you're a terrible friend. You're not doing it to be a terrible friend. You're not trying to ignore people. But you're like, they're fine without me. If they wanted to hear from me, they'd let me know. It's a terrible habit to have because it's a way you lose contact with a lot of people. But yeah, I'm absolutely, dude, even when I was a kid, calling my friends to ask, hey, can we hang out today? I was like, bro, that was like a nightmare to me every single time. So, I surround myself with like-minded individuals, but whether or not I actually engage with them in terms of conversation, I seldom do because of that social anxiety. So I'm maybe not the right person to ask on how to get over social anxiety. Wish I was, though. Really wish I freaking was. There was another spoiler. There was that spoiler question that I mentioned I didn't really have an answer to earlier. And I think at this point I've looped back around and answered all of the things that I expected to answer. So with that, that's going to be a wrap for this week's weekly Q&A, Mondays with Mr. Happy. Thank you for asking your questions In the comment section of the video below, feel free to ask any question you might have. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy or Mr. Happy Mondays. Either or will do. And honestly, as you can see, even if you don't hashtag it, I'll probably still see it. And I'll probably include it as long as I don't overlook it. So with that, thank you for watching this week. Thank you again to our sponsors on Patreon and, of course, to City of Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. Don't forget to click the link in the description to support the channel and support the sponsor. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care.